Morning, everybody. It is 8:15 a.m. Welcome to my channel. Yesterday was wild. Okay, yesterday was wild. So we opened up with a small gap up, and then basically had more or less an exhaustion gap in the Nasdaq. Okay, you opened up above the prior 2 days. ES, you opened up really only above the prior day. Nasdaq had the stronger move, hence like I said, you were above the last two trading sessions and just drove, right? Helped by Nvidia becoming a 4 trillion market cap stock at one point. Okay. Now, while that was happening, internals were not strong. They were not strong. Okay. So I was watching this and I'm like, I actually went live yesterday in my Discord, had a nice little crowd in there and group in there. And I kept saying, I don't trust this. This is not supported by internals. Next thing you know, we're selling off. We're filling the gaps. And we took back all of that buying. And then the rest of the day, now for about, let's say, for maybe an hour or two, we kind of hung out. Maybe an hour and a half or two. We kind of hung out at the lower part of the range. All right, now FOMC minutes was at 2, which didn't really give anything, right? And then really what we did is we just held in this particularly the ES or the SPY, we pretty much were playing around the previous day's highs. And then finally we had about 3 15-minute candles you can see here. You can see right here 3 15-minute candles holding the previous day's highs. That was it. And then the market just started just trending up. Okay. So let me get rid of these. And basically in the Qs you could see we came down. Previous day's highs came down again. That was all she wrote. And we went up. You can see the stronger move up in the Nasdaq, the stronger move down, like a strong move down. But then the Nasdaq didn't have a big as recovery as the SPY did. So it was a very interesting day. Okay, very interesting day. I did have a short attempt at one point because the market was weak, and I shorted near a VPOC. Okay, that's always dangerous because you could chop there. And I did get initial moves off my selling, which I took some profits off, but then had a very small loss. I pretty much considered it a flat day. And then it just moved sideways. And I was like, you know what? I don't trust this. I didn't like how the market was moving. If you look at like a 5 minute chart, it looks disgusting. Like this, the price action, even a 15-minute chart, it just didn't look good. Okay. Now, I know earlier in the day, we did come down to a demand zone in the ES and the NASDAQ. And there was like 3 hours of support where we came down in the NASDAQ. And that's eventually what buyers stepped up, held that important level. We'll get into that in a little bit. All right. So without further ado, welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and bond profile find structure in the markets along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, then the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. That is the way I look at markets and give me a roadmap to work with and make a plan for the day. All right. So I'll use Anchor VWAPs and my market internals. Market internals were so key yesterday. Okay. Now, one member of my community in the Discord had a monster short yesterday, and he was using the weighted AD from my internals window to see that there was no strength. All right. For me, for my style, there wasn't really a setup for me as a short. It wasn't really a setup, but and another member also had a long off the demand zone in the ES. Okay. So, that's just the beauty of trading. Everybody has different styles. One guy's a scalper, another guy goes off levels. So, me, I'm a little more like story. I would call myself a more intraday swing trader than looking to get a couple points. Okay? So, everybody has to fit their style, right? So, anyway, hopefully you subscribe to my YouTube, set an alert. All right, do this every morning. Give you the market story, give you a bunch of TA, and I give you scenarios later on. Now, if you want more in-depth live commentary on the markets, okay, that's when you're going to join my Discord, Confluence Trading. All right, click on my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and yesterday I went live, and it was perfect because I had live commentary about my internals. Okay, you can see here in my Discord. Okay, so I said I was going live, and then at 9:53, I said ticks nice and green, internals over zero, not super strong yet. Not super strong yet. I said NVIDIA's the largest market cap now, all-time highs. And I said NQ is at last week's highs. Okay, last week's highs. ES is in supply, just watching here. Then 10:12, ticks weakening. Internals are not strong. So look at internals. They are literally at 10, and the equal weight is below, way below, right? And I said either the market cap is going to pull the equal weight up with it, or the equal weight is going to bring down the market cap. Okay? And then what happened? Right? This happened. Ticks are holding red now. Internals are weak. Look at the internals. Boom. Weak. Okay? And I said still tricky. All right? So that was part of my Discord yesterday, and I was live. So I'll probably go live again today. So if you want to come, again, that's Confluence Trading. That's a Discord. Click on the YouTube homepage and come join. All right? Use me as an indicator. I'm telling you, use me as an indicator. I could be your edge, right? And then you can then go, ooh, well, my setup's starting, and Steve from Confluence Trading is saying the market looks weak even though we're up, right? So that's what you can use me as. All right? So let's get right into futures watch list here and see what's moving markets. Okay. All right. We got silver leading the pack. I'm a holder of silver, so I'm liking to see that. We got gold. I could only think maybe the dollar is a little weak today, and then look at it. We'll see in a second. Ethereum up 0.23. 30-year bonds flat. Dollar's flat. Well, dollar's flat. Nasdaq's flat. 10-year yields flat. A lot of flat out there. Russell flat. ES flat. Geez, this is like market's doing nothing. Dow's down 0.11. The VIX is flat. Crude's down 0.76, 0.75. Bitcoin's down 0.90. That's the laggard in futures. Okay, that's the laggard. All right, so we're going to move on to the Max 7. And we have AMD. AMD, wow, AMD, loving it. I'm a proud holder of AMD. And one of my members of my community as well in Discord, he asked me the other day, what level can I, and gamma levels can you give me for AMD? And I told him 134. And you check the chart on 134 on AMD, and that was the low. Okay, and he added it to his position. That's up 2.67%. I'm not sure exactly why, but that pulled back, and that gave opportunity for buyers to step in. Nvidia is up 1%. Okay. They closed at 162. They're up to 164. So semis are leading today. Tesla up 1%. Okay. And then we have some laggards here. We have Berkshire Hathaway down 0.25. Amazon down 0.29. Apple down 0.45. And Coinbase down 0.71. what the Bitcoin would. It's a proxy basic for Bitcoin. Okay. Top sectors. Is there anything out there? We'll just go to it. McDonald's up 0.89. Costco's up 0.50, a half a percent basically. Visa's the laggard. All right. Moving on to sectors. Here we go. Semi's leading the pack. That's your AMD and your Nvidia, right? Up 0.63%. Followed by basic materials. That would be some mining stocks and stuff like that. Uh, XLK, pretty much flat though. And the only little lagger is financials. Now, financials at all-time highs, and they're pulling back. Okay. All right. Other than that, energy, I mean, really not much to see here. Okay. All right. Now, let's go to the economic calendar. Not much to see today either. We have initial jobless claims at 8:30. We got some Fed speak today. Fed Musalem at 10 a.m. Lately, they really haven't been doing much to the markets. Okay. Fed Walter Fedeli. All right. Let's get into some stock news here. We have Delta Airlines stock rose 9.7% after the carrier restored its previously withdrawn full-year guidance, citing confidence in the business. Nvidia stock rose 0.8 after the AI darling became the first company to be valued at 4 trillion. Okay, Taiwan Semiconductors Manufacturing stock rose 1.2 after the world's largest contract chip maker posted a 39% jump in second quarter sales. Okay, WK Kellogg stock surged 50% of the Wall Street Journal reported the family-owned Italian candy group Ferraro is closing in on roughly $3 billion deal to buy the cereal maker. Wow. Interesting. Tesla stock rose 1.1 after the EV manufacturer announced it will hold its annual shareholder meeting on November 6th, while Disney stock rose 0.2 after the entertainment giant said it has signed a content agreement with British broadcaster ITV. Ulta Beauty stock will be spotlighted after Sky News reported that the U.S. cosmetics retailer is on the verge of a deal to buy British high street chain Space NK. Oracle stock rose 1.8% after Piper Sandler upgraded its stance on software companies to overweight from neutral. All right. Now, gets to some more news here. Trump sets 50% U.S. tariffs on copper, Brazilian imports starting in August. Okay. Delta, see, we already talked about that. U.S. bank profits decline on stronger trading. Fruit Loops maker Kellogg, we just mentioned that. Tesla to expand robo-taxis to San Francisco area within 2 months. All right. Let's see here. You mentioned a lot of this news already, so I'm only going to mention, let's see, it looks like Ford is recalling 850,318 vehicles. Let's see. Microsoft, Piper Sandler raises target price to 600 from 475. Workday, Piper Sandler cuts target price to 235 from 255. All right. Now, one thing that did come out yesterday that took down Google was, I believe OpenAI is coming out with their own search engine. That ripped Google down. If you look at a chart of Google, it ripped all the way down to the previous day's lows, got bought up, but then I saw that it wasn't true or something came out about that. But then even ChatGPT, I believe, said the same thing later, that they're looking to come up with their own search. So interesting, interesting. And I know that there was some news and some statistics that a lot of people are using like AI to do search instead of Google, which could hurt Google, but Google, has Gemini. Who knows how that's going to pan out, okay? Let's look at financial juice here. Let's see what's moving markets. Let's see if Trump's going to say something today. Let's look at risk. So what we have today is European equities rose for the fourth straight day as investors bought mining stocks. U.S. stock futures have stalled after the S&P 500 ended just short of an all-time high. Okay, it says now the news with oil just came out. OPEC discusses pausing output hikes from October. All right. Now, let's see what we have for today. Jobless claims coming out, and then just Fed. That's all I see for today. all I see for today. Now, real quick, we'll look at breadth. Some, like I said, very simple to look at something is how many stocks are over their simple day 220 simple moving average. That is 74%. All right, we're holding steady around here. Like I said, you get real frothy up in the high 80s to 90s, and you get some type of correction, usually in the market. Okay, usually in the market. All right, now what I'm going to go over now is the market internals recap. All right, and we're going to go right into it. And as simple as I can state it, when the market opened, all right, so you can see here, let's look at this here. When the market opened up, right, internals were not strong. That 38 is not strong. And the equal weight was so divergent. That means the overall market was weak. As the market cap weight is how our market moves, got stronger, the equal weight fell. And equal weight pulled down right here. See that zero? Then boom, 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 right? And then the rest of the day it trended higher. So this was a telltale. I didn't have a trade set up here, unfortunately, but it basically, here's why this is worth its weight in gold, is it made me not want to go long and take a loss. Okay? So it's not just about making money, it's about saving money. Okay? So it's very important, and that's your market internals. Recap. Okay? At the end of the day, now tech was red at one point, but by the end of the day, look at it. 4 out of the 6 top sectors were green, except financials. Okay, staples was red, energy, but that doesn't move the market. Staples and energy do not move the market. Look at the weighting, 5.5% and 3%. That's only about what's 8.5%. Infotech by itself is 33%. That is huge. Okay, huge. So just to give you an idea, market cap weight, right? So if you have 33 Infotech, financials is 14. What is that? 47%. 47% is financials and Infotech. That's half of the market cap. Then you add in another 10. That's 57. The consumer discretionary. That's your Tesla, your Home Depot, and your Amazon. Okay. Then you add another basically 10 to make it 67% is communications. That's your Meta, your Google, your Netflix. Right? We're at 67% in the top 4 sectors. 77 is brings it with the healthcare. That's your Eli Lilly and United Healthcare. Okay, so when these 4, right, or 5 are green, you're gonna probably recover or move up, right? Because that's what moves our market. Okay. All right. Let's move on. And let's move on to our daily charts here. All right. Just give me a sec while I pull those up. And also yesterday, all that noise, the open, the drive, the this, the blah, 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 in the daily chart, there wasn't much going on. Okay? If you look at the daily chart, where we closed yesterday, 624, right? Right here. Right now, we're at 623.80. We are right here near the close. All right, near the close. And we opened here, drove up to 624, right? So you took out these last 2 days, right? Sold off back into the range of the previous day and then got bought up, closed here. Okay? And if you look at it, really look at it, really look at this daily chart, we just are in a range. Okay? We are in a range. This is our range. Okay, in a zoomed out perspective, this is our range. Now, if you look at this again, what do we have? Notice my orange bars. Those are last week's range. We're inside last week. Okay? So we're inside last week. And this price right here, where we're at, right, is pretty much in the middle of last week's range. I mean, this would be like the middle probably, right? But we are in the middle of this range. So we haven't broke out of this range. It felt like the NASDAQ is a little different, all right? But that's what we're looking at, okay? Now look at futures. Okay, futures, you get more 24-hour session pretty much looking at, but we are in a balanced range. Here's last week's range. Got a doji candle for the overnight so far. And this is futures, right? So you can say this is pretty much our playground. Okay? It's like we're not really doing much, even though intraday yesterday looked crazy, right? So that's what's going on here. Pretty much last month's highs, last week's range, we're inside last week's. Okay? Let's look at the Qs. Qs had a stronger drive yesterday. Okay? Here's your Qs. Now look what the Qs did. It actually broke last week's range and then couldn't sustain it. People took profits, right? And then we closed right here. We actually closed at last Friday's close. Interesting, right? So, again, you got a little bit of a range here. Okay? Let's look at that. Let's paint it out here. All right. Came up to last week's highs. Right now, where are we at now? 556.12. We are right at pretty much yesterday's close. Okay. All right. Let's look at futures. Because we're at yesterday's close, you're really not going to see much difference here. Little doji candle here, right? So, and we're in a range. You could see definitely a nice balanced range in futures. Here's you get more data, right? There's our little range. Okay, so we're still building up. You took out definitely some shorts from these days. You took out all three of these yesterday. But now we're back, right? If we pull back again, you're just coiling up for a big move. That's all you're doing. All right. Now we're going to move on to our bond market. And this is our triple-headed monster. Let's do it. The bond market did sell a little bit yesterday. Finally had its first selling day yesterday. Meaning in the yields. That means people bought bonds. So we broke this trend. And now, is this swing high right here going to be the next, right? What happens here? I don't know. Look at this, right at the 200-day, the 100-day, the 50-day. That when all these moving averages are flat together, you notice is not doing crap at all. All right, not doing anything. All right. Now moving on to the dollar. The dollar, like I said, is it going to gain some traction? Now it's getting some buying, hitting the 20-day simple moving average, right? And not that I have to school anybody on moving averages, but the good thing about these different types of moving averages here is you got your 9 EMA, right? And that will show you what's going on recently. It's flat. You can see the price action, right? It's kind of flat. 20-day, you get a little more, in the last 20 days, what are we doing? It's declining and starting to flatten out. 50-day gives you like a trend, like what it's been doing over the last couple months. It's going down, and then you have 100 days sloping down, 200 days sloping down. So this is just how you can gauge, what a stock's doing, right? So that's what's going on with the dollar. Let's go to that VIX. Remember, the VIX is 30 days out, right? 30 days out. We're like pushing the expected move, lower expected move of this week in the VIX. Okay, it's last week's lows, last month's lows. We're holding at like a 15, a 16 VIX. Okay, we break lower than that. We haven't been down here, let's see, since February. Okay, if we drop farther, yeah, the ranges are going to get much smaller. Okay, all right, moving on. Let's go to hourly charts. Okay, we'll start with the ES. All right, so we do have this trend line, right? Oh, I'm on a 2 hour chart. 1 second. Okay. This is just from this immediate here. I'm actually might. Nope. Give me 1 second here. Let me rearrange this. All right. There we go. We're in this little wedge though. I'm not really a fan of this one. I'm gonna get rid of that. Okay. So what do we see here? Right? What do we see here? Let me get my marker out. All right. So yesterday, there's that big move up, right? And where do we come to? This key support, I marked it off. 63.13 has been resistance. Okay? That level's been very important as resistance. Came up here, 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 came back, sold off, came back, sold off, came back, right? That's a very, very important level. Okay? You can see we kind of came up here again into the supply and we're selling a little bit, right? So that's a key level. Now, yesterday, remember this big level to 62.70's ultimate balance, right? We went up, hit that resistance, came all the way back down right above this level and held it, right? And then we ripped up. And then in the overnight, we came down, and then we came up, and then we're here. Okay? So, obviously, this level is important. Can it break? I don't know, right? But if we come up here again and test it, there's just a lot of overhead supply there. So, this could force us to move back down and maybe move back up. Or we just move down, break this low, and we test this again. I don't know. But that's basically what I'm looking at here. Okay? Basically what I'm seeing. In the grand scheme, this has been our playground. Right? Remember I just said we've been in a range, right? That's kind of the range we're playing with. And the extremes of those ranges are usually the time you want to play. Right? So even yesterday I was like, oh, the only thing I'm thinking about is a long, but it was a very difficult long down here. It didn't just rock it. If we had some nice price action pulled back, it wasn't really clear for my style to just go long, but that was the only play down here, and it turned out to be the play. All right, why? Because we're at the bottom of this range, right? And then look, you come to the top of the range, people sold. Top of the range, people sold. Now you're in the middle, and we came to the top again. Do we sit? Do we sell back? Maybe we do. Okay, let's have to look at it. Okay. Now let's go to Nasdaq here. Nasdaq has a very strong trend line here. This trend from all the way back here has been one, like, let's see, let's call this 1, 2, 3 touch, right? Then we got this trend line right here. Okay, those are just extra confluence for me. That's all. When I find a trend that's actually like got multiple touches, I'm like, all right, well, that's undeniable. So here is your Nasdaq. All right, and remember I said we are in a range as well. And that's the thing with trading, right? Like down here when we came into this demand zone, and I was telling in the community, wow, this has got 3 hours of support here. It broke the last 3 hourly bars of support, right? It came right to this anchored VWAP and right to the key level of that 229. And I said, if that holds, it's bullish, right? And then that didn't make it easy either. You see, you had a wick, you came back down. Like it was not clear what was going to happen in the market. Okay, but look, you pushed up, down, right? Came down, moved up to where? Last week's highs. Came all the way back down to this level, bounced off of it. Right now, what are we doing? We're kind of not clear. The Nasdaq's not as good of a range as the ES is, right? We're not like back to here and selling off. So obviously, your engagement is going to be in here. If we come back up to here, if we come back up to here, do we break out or do we fall and go back here or here? Okay, that's really what we're looking at here, right? I would say this is a little more difficult to gauge, you know, but the area of interest is definitely last week's highs. Okay, and again, 229, most traded price of the week. Okay, that's your first line of defense. 228.30 is the big boy, is your major line in the sand. So these together, right, are really for the defense for the Nasdaq. Really is defense. Okay, below here is really poor structure. As long as we hold above, it's bullish. Okay, and July is generally a bullish month. Okay, you can see we're getting some selling finally in here, right? And what are we going to do? We're going close to the mid of the overnight session, the mid of yesterday, and it makes it not the best area, right? And if we wanted to just throw a nice little volume profile, okay, and we could even start from this push up, boom, profile. Okay, so even here, from this point in time, the most traded price is yesterday's 22981, right? That's a distribution. You have a distribution here at 230.40. So value area is here. Right now we're right inside value area high from this point in time. Okay. And the beauty about the volume profile is I love it because you just look at little high volume, low volume nodes here. That means little time was spent there. That means there's going to be a rejection there, right? There's your rejection, right? When you have a shelf, like a big shelf, right? Like this, right here, that right here. This shelf is going to be support here, right? Support here. And it's just great because you can really see the behavior of the price, right? Most contracts traded at 22981, right? So I love this because it gives you a nice look at price action. Okay. All right, let's move on. We'll go right into the volume profile now. me just switch workspaces here, and we'll go right into price action. Okay. This is your market profile, volume profile, analysis. The beauty of this, the way I look at the market, is it splits up. The dark shaded area is the real-time trading hours, right? 9:30 to 4:15 p.m. The gray highlight is your overnight activity, and I like it because it gives me 2 sessions to look at. It makes it very easy for me to come up with game plans. Okay. Now, first thing we want to look at is our weekly composite profile. That's the blue. We just really looked at one. Here's a distribution. Here's value area, right? Here's the most traded price, 62.70 of the month and in the week. And then you have excess to the downside, right? Pretty much balanced. A little more to the upside, right? That's our composite profile, right? Now, if you look at yesterday, you know, drove up, came down all the way down into here, bottom, bottom, bottom. And then what happened, right? What happened right here? Previous day's highs were support right there. And then boom, it just ripped up. Okay. Now, as far as today, we're inside yesterday's session. Okay. We have the major resistance level 63.13s right here. Okay. That's why that blue line's there. To remind me that there's a major resistance level. Major. Okay. We have multiple demand zones. Okay. We have our monster level 62.70. Okay. Now I'm going to look at levels. Okay. I'm just looking at the profile. We are inside yesterday, right? We're at the midpoint of the overnight. Midpoint of yesterday, 62.95. It's not the best area, right? But we know we have levels, so we're going to get right into it. And we know our resistance, major level, 63.13. Okay, yesterday's high, 63.15. There's a supply zone there. Okay, so right here is that supply. So I'm going to mark it off. Now, what's encapsulated in this area? You got overnight highs, 63.12. Yesterday's high, 63.15. The major resistance, 63.13. Yesterday's close, the most traded price of yesterday. Okay, that's a very important area. All right, very important area. Multiple demand zones right here. Right, so I'm not going to mark those off because they're already marked off. Okay, now what we do have here is a weak low in the market profile. It just means you don't have a lot of excess here, which you don't. You don't have a tail. Okay. So what I would say is this would be a key level here. Right here to right here. That's demand zone. Okay, this demand zone, you have the week to date, month to date VWAP, week to date VWAP in here. Okay, remember, defend 62.70 at all costs, and it should go up. All right. Then we have this major demand zone down here. Probably not going to be dealing with that today at all. Okay. So, without further ado, why don't we just get into scenarios? We're going to start with the bull side. Okay. So, we're in the middle of the overnight session. Okay. And let's spread this out so we can see the price action. Okay. Let's see the price action. So, most traded price of the overnight's right here, almost close to the yesterday's most traded price. Okay. Now, what I'm going to look at here, right, is there's demand here, right? So we have a couple points we can pull back to. right? So let's say we pull back to here. We could bounce and try to take out the 6313. You got a high volume node right here. Potentially go there. You got a naked VPOC. That's just an untested most traded price of a day. That level is about 63.23. All right, 63.23. Now you could pull back to here. You can see support right here, edge of the demand zone, and go up higher as well. Okay. Now the little bear trap would be real quick, a flush move through this level here. Now you have a very big demand zone down here. You got anchor VWAP of the week, the anchor VWAP for the week to date, anchor VWAP, month to date. A lot of support in here and the major levels. So if we did come down in here quickly, I would like to be quick, bounce, get some higher lows here. You can move up. Below this level, I'm not a fan. The only thing that I would say, if we come down here and say we open up down here in the overnight, right? And then we push, take it out, right? And then do a V, reclaim it, that would be a long as well. Other than that, below here, not interested. The market should be weak below that. Okay. All right, short side. Now we know we have the range high, basically 63.13 here. Okay. Everybody knows that level. Doesn't take a rocket scientist. Okay. So what happens? What if we push down here, come up and test this level? Okay. And test this level. So one, I'm going to look how the order flow is around this level. If we take it, come back, test it, you could fall, right? Fall down, take out the overnight lows, see if you can go to 62.70. Below here is gravy. And there's, could fall down. Okay? But realistically, that would be your exit. Man, hold a couple runners for this, but that would be your exit. That's 63.13. Okay. Other than that, I'd be really like, if we're not up there to test that, how much of a short with all this demand here? Probably not a fan of it too much. I need to go a little higher. Maybe if we touch this naked VPOC and make it up to last week's highs, then you get some lower highs here. Maybe you go back into range, but I'm not a fan of this. If you're up here, you're probably strong. So, but I have to give you those scenarios, okay? That's what I'm looking for as far as the short side. You can see that I'm probably not favoring too much of a short. All right, moving on to the NASDAQ. How are we looking here? Oh, really? That's annoying. I have to reload my data. Ugh, that's annoying. All right, give me one sec here. I'll give you the futures watch list. I'm just going to load data here. Give me one second. Apologize for that. Yeah, every now and then you just have to kickstart this and import data. And it's a NASDAQ, so there's more tick data in it. But as soon as I see it like that, I'm like, oh boy, really? I'm loving seeing that silver. We could actually go to a different list here, more granular list here. I'll show you that. Let's go to my swing list. So here, right there. So that's your Delta Airlines. See that? 12 up 12%. United Airlines, Sympathy Play, American Airlines. Look at all the airlines, right? Chris Therapeutics, JetBlue. I believe that's Southwest Airlines, LUV. That's what you're getting. Some of these other stocks: Oracle, AstraZeneca, ASML, Norwegian Cruise Lines. See, that's who's leading your pack here. Now, who's the laggards of this list? Nubank, Autodesk, Workday, Verizon, Nike, Skyworks, right? MicroStrategy. So that's your weakness in that list. This is just a more granular list here. Okay. Things that don't really move markets. That's your top sector stocks. McDonald's having a good day. Okay. AMD, boy. I'm loving AMD right now. Right here, AMD. So we're getting a little more weakness, it looks like, in the market. As my data loads. We can look at some daily charts here. Give me a sec here. We actually look at crude as well here. Here's some crude. Crude just opened, actually. It's pushing down. You can see this consolidation area here. It just broke it. Month to date VWAP right here. That's crude. Back to our ES. That's our ES. This Nasdaq's still loading here for me. Nasdaq just has so much tick data. But we can get into some charts here. Just trying to. All right, here's the futures daily charts. We came down to the 9 EMA daily here yesterday, right? And we're just consolidating here, all right? That Nasdaq, let's do the Nasdaq here. Most traded price of this year, 21932. Same thing, pull back to the 9 EMA daily, just consolidating, right? Looks like it wants higher. Well, let's see if we can go back to this data. What the heck is going on? How annoying is that? If this doesn't load, I might just have to do the ES for today. I mean, it's gonna load. It's just annoying. Really annoying. Let's look at what the sectors look like right now. Semi still leading the pack. Energy's the laggard. All right, I'm gonna give this a minute, and then otherwise I'll just cut it, cut the feed, cut the stream, just because I don't want to hold anybody up. If you are waiting for the Nasdaq analysis, all right. Usually this would have been. Oh, all right, it's back. Finally, Jesus. Sorry about that. All right, let's look at this together. Here we are. Okay. Let's load it up. All right. So, we'll get right into it. Now, Nasdaq's inside yesterday's range. Okay. Inside. Right. Like I said, it's not as clean as the ES currently. All right. We do have some key levels, though. Okay. We do have some key levels, and we could talk about them. All right. Remember, that was last week's highs. That's a very important level. So we're going to mark that off. We know there is resistance here. Okay. Now, perfect level right here is the overnight low. Okay. And yesterday's most traded price with this demand zone. Okay. Now we know we have a major level, 2290. Also has a demand in this level. Market needs to defend it. An ultimate defense is this big demand zone in here with 22830. That's your major bull bear line. That is the last defense for the Nasdaq. Okay, so now I'm going to spread out this price action. That's your price action right here. Okay, and I don't like it because you're inside yesterday's range. Here's middle of yesterday's range. Here's the middle of the overnight. Okay, I'm not a fan of where the location is. All right. Now we're gonna get right into scenarios, so I don't take anybody else of your time, and we're gonna get right into the bull side. Okay, so here's yesterday's close. So that's where we're at. pretty much makes it a flat Nasdaq. Okay, and what do I want to see here? Maybe we pull back to this support. You can see there's support right here, and you push out and you test last week's highs and then try to go to all-time highs. Okay, same thing for this demand. This demand is a little more important. See, you have one, two, three, four, five, almost, let's see that, five 30-minute bars supporting the breakout level. See the breakout of these to the left, and yesterday's most traded price. Right? So immediate bias, you don't want to lose that. Remember, these are the big levels, but in as far as the intraday, the more nuanced level, that level you do not want to lose. So if you hold that, that should be great to move up. Okay. And then if you break that, that's not the best. But remember, this is the key level. You come down here and you get some lower highs, you can make yourself back up. I don't think from here you go to all-time highs. Okay. You could always have a bear trap, reclaim that level, and go up as well. Okay. Down here, ugh, probably pretty weak. I'm probably not interested. Okay. You definitely could come down here and bounce, but that's to me later in the session, or it's not. I don't really like trading like that. Okay. Now go to the short side. We know we don't have much supply here in Nasdaq. That's the thing. You don't only all you have is that last week's highs. Okay. Don't really like it that much. Okay. But you have to treat it. So we can come up, come down, pull back, come up here, and just test what we do up here. Is the market strong, or is the market weak like it was yesterday, going up to basically all-time highs? Okay, come back down. What do we do? Do we start to sell off, and then we can come back down and test this 22978? That's a big level, 22978 in the Nasdaq. Okay, yesterday's most traded price and support here and demand. If you lose that, you're definitely going to test this level 229. Okay, then you get into here. That's like more choppy inside this range right here, in between two major levels. That's a chop zone. Okay, but if you happen to test this major 22830, no good. And the market's weak, that could really rip low. You just have to know that. It doesn't mean I expect that. It means it could happen. It could happen. Okay? You're getting some large buying coming in. You can see that just popped up. I don't know if you heard that, the alert. All right, so that's my analysis today. Large orders coming and hitting the tape. Don't know why right now. But that's it for today. Sorry about that data. But please smash the like button. Just please smash that like button. Help me out a lot. And of course, join me every morning. I do this. I give you the market story. I give you the TA. Right? So, leaders, laggards, economic calendar, market news, all that. Right? And TA. And I just gave you long and short trade scenarios. All right. I like the ES right now as far as structure. I like the ES better. All right. So we have to see what happens when the market opens, right? And when that market opens, let me be your indicator. Okay. Confluence Trading, my Discord. Join. Go to the YouTube homepage. Set it up. Come to join the community. Ask me questions. Okay. Some of the stuff I talk about isn't like candlesticks. Okay. But use me as your indicator. I'm going to explain to you, hey, the market's this, the market's that. I'm going to sit on the sidelines right now. It doesn't mean you need to. But I'm just saying, I'm going to give you the story of the market. And I'm always reading it on point. It doesn't always line up with a trade setup, though. Right? So that would make me hands off. But hands off is still not making me, losing me money. Okay? That's the important part. Preservation of capital. All right. So come join me. All right. Now, otherwise than that, if I don't see you in my Discord, I'll see you tomorrow. All right.